Hello there, YouTube. I wanted to do a walk-around video of my 2-liter Pontiac turbocharged engine from my '87 Sunbird GT Turbo convertible. There's barely anything on YouTube about these engines, so I thought I would do a little walk-around video of the engine and all its accessories. You can see it's an overhead cam, very small little 2-liter engine. It's cast iron block and aluminum head. It has a distributor instead of any cam or crank sensors. The exhaust manifold I'm running is made by Vox, and it's a steel, I guess. It's not cast iron. TIG welded manifold, flange for a T3 turbo. Has a spot on top here for an external wastegate, which I blocked off because I like the Garrett internal wastegates. The turbo I'm currently running is a Garrett Super 60, which I believe is from a Mopar performance package from the 80s on the 2.2 engine. I believe the 60 part refers to the compressor wheel, which is 60 millimeter. It's about twice the physical size of the stock turbo. The stock turbo on my year was a T25, which was water cooled and oil cooled. This Garrett is only oil cooled. You can see it has a feed line and the drain line there. You can also see the block is drilled and tapped for a return line. I'm not sure if the non-turbo block has that boss or not. Somebody out there might know, I don't know. This is the oil feed line to the turbo. You can see it's a long path all the way from the oil pump, which is at the front of the engine. It's one of those gear rotor types like on the newer LS engines or Buick 3800s. It's a long way to go, but I don't think there's any other oil taps on this engine. The water pump is right here, driven by the cam belt. This is like a water distribution manifold on the front of the engine that goes to the thermostat housing. My thermostat housing has been clocked, so it goes left instead of right. Originally it went out this way, and the radiator went the same direction. You know, the engine sits in the car just like you see it here, left to right, and the original hose would go like this, you know, around. So I had the radiator clocked and I had this clocked after the advice of a guy on jbody.org. It is a lot easier to fit turbo plumbing in here, air intake, that kind of stuff. So if Protonus is watching this video, that was because of you. Here's your engine coolant temp sensor for the gauge. What else? This is the European crankcase breather pipe and oil dipstick tube. The stock dipstick tube actually came out, went over like to here with a T-handle. I don't know why Pontiac did that, but this was a little neater and smaller, so I got that from a friend of mine in the UK. Thanks, Steph. You got the manifold too. I had this elbow, had a pipe welded onto it years ago so I could run an external breather because I knew I'd be boosting the crap out of this thing. And this is just an Oldsmobile breather I stuck on there, and you can see it tap my hood, a little dent in it. My oil pan is European. It's got fins in the bottom, it's aluminum. That's from my buddy Steph in the UK also. It looks like it's drilled for a oil drain. I don't know what that's for, probably an oil level sensor maybe. It fits pretty well, but I don't think it seals as good as the original steel ones. I may go back to steel. This is an oil cooler, which I also picked up from my buddy Steph from England. The European cars got the best stuff. The American cars got barely anything. As a matter of fact, parts have always been hard to get to this engine, and today it is no better. One weird thing about these engines is the starter is on the back side. This is where the intake manifold goes up like that. You can see it over there on my workbench. The starter is under the intake manifold, which is a pain in the ass to change. One bolt goes this way, and one bolt goes that way through the bell housing. So to change it is a real picnic. It has this little bracket right here too for support. I tried to go to a European gear reduction starter. I actually got one from my buddy Steph, but it didn't work. It was grinding the flywheel. So the teeth are probably the wrong shape or size. So I stuck with the original type starter, which works great, but to change them is a pain in the ass. You have to drop the intake manifold out, really. You can't get it from the back. Real chore. This is I believe this is the feed, water pump feed. Like the bottom of the radiator is how the radiator fills. You fill it, it fills from the bottom. So this goes to the radiator lower hose, and this is just an S-curve with a manifold pipe, basically. This nipple here goes to the heater core. This one goes to your cooling on your turbo. And I believe this goes to the heater core also. And this fitting over here is the return from the turbo. Like I said, this turbo, the original turbo was water cooled rather, so the hose came from here, went to the turbo, and then it came back out, went to there. I'm gonna go back to a T28 turbo, which I believe is water and oil cooled, so I'll have to add the lines back in. My car's automatic. You can see the flex plate right there, and there's my transmission torn apart. I'll do a quick video about that next. What else can I tell you about this thing? There's not much to it. My cylinder head is ported. A friend of mine does cylinder head porting. So years ago, he ported this head for me, and as I recall, he said it went from flowing like shit to just flowing badly. So I guess it's an improvement. I don't have a flow sheet handy. I may have one at home, but I don't recall the numbers being overly impressive. One other quick thing is these cylinder heads, you know, this whole engine is metric, so the cylinder heads are fastened by a torque to yield metric bolt and stud combination. I didn't want to use torque to yield bolts. I hate the idea of throwing them away too once you, take them out the first time. So I converted the block. I had my friend at the machine shop tap the block to 1/2-inch studs. These are 1/2-inch ARP studs, which means you have to drill the head and the cam carrier housing also to make it all work, which also required a smaller dowel. There's a locating dowel in here to locate the cam carrier to the head. I had to find one that was thinner wall, which again, my buddy Scott at the machine shop did that for me. ARP does make a metric bolt or stud for this engine. It either wasn't available at the time or I was too dumb to figure it out, so I never used it. I went with 1/2-inch studs. Now I'm committed to them. So anybody building one of these engines, you should look into the ARP rod bolts, which I run. ARP, I think they make main bolts now, and those head bolts or head studs. I also see a coolant sensor here. So one of these is for the gauge. I'm gonna guess that's the gauge, and this is the computer. The knock sensor was on the other side. This does have a knock sensor. It's kind of limited, and like all the old OBD1 GM stuff, by the time you know what's going on, it's too late. It's like a Grand National. By the time you hear knock, it's probably too late. I think this thing only pulls 8 degrees of timing out anyway. So that's about it. This was the hose that went to my wastegate. I was running a manual boost controller. And since I'm back to running the stock computer chip, I also ran a map bleed, which bleeds off boost. So the computer is fooled into thinking the boost is under, I want to say it's 10 or 11 pounds in these things before it starts to pull fuel out. What else can I tell you? Oh, one other thing. These have they call it a basket handle thermostat, which is really odd. A lot of GMs had those in the 80s. And the smallest temperature, lowest temperature thermostat you can buy is a 180, and I wanted a 160 because I wanted to crank the boost up and I want to detonate. So what I did was get a Grand National 160 thermostat, and I drilled a couple of holes in it and tack welded this basket handle off an old thermostat to the Grand National thermostat. So now I have a 160. I've had it in there for years. It works great. Clever little tip for you guys if you want to try that. What else? I think that's about it. It's, this European, they call it a Vernier Pulley over in Europe. It's just an adjustable timing gear sprocket, so you can advance the cam or retard the cam as you see fit. I may go back to the stock gear because I really didn't see much benefit from this thing. I don't know. When I have this thing apart, I'll figure it all out. I'll check true top dead center, remark my balancer, and double check all that crap. But anyway, that's the story. Just thought I would take a quick video of it while it was out of the car. And like I said, there's very little Turbo Sunbird stuff on YouTube for some reason. So hopefully this is beneficial to somebody just to see how it all goes together and see how it should look. It's a tiny little thing. It only weighs about, I don't know, 300 pounds, something like that. Anyway, any questions, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.